Next item, which is the Child Development Center Relocation Plan and its secondary effects. I just want to note that we have two additional presenters. Kathy White will be also talking about this, as well as Phil Newsom. He is the Facilities Master Plan Architect and the CDC Relocation Architect. So we will have those two individuals to answer questions as well. So I'll turn it over to our Vice Chancellor of Finance and Administration, Mark Zacovic.
So, good afternoon, everybody. I'm here to talk to you a little bit today about really what I would call the calendar year 2016 minor projects, relatively small projects in terms of capital outlay for the district. And we're just trying to get the right thing up on the screen. Can you just turn it off? It takes a village. Oh my goodness.
It's my fault.
I hope this isn't cutting into my minutes. Is the timer going? Oh my gosh. Okay. Ah, thank goodness. Okay, so because a picture is worth 1,000 words, I have a diagram that I want to run through with you about these changes that we're proposing. And I want to tell you that I made this presentation to the Chancellor's Cabinet, and it had unanimous support. And I also had the opportunity to make the presentation to the Capital Projects Planning Committee, the CPPC, yesterday, and it was also endorsed and supported with just a single no vote.
You did have my head being a blockhead, though. Changed my blockhead.
There's some very subtle thing in my paper dolls, but that's the pointy head accountants and the blockheads. Anyway, so this is a representation of what the campus and these particular offices look like right now. So we've got Goff Street off here, and we've got some instructional support downstairs in Goff. We have fiscal services, and we have human resources. We have the Child Development Center. We have the 200 bungalows. We've got the 600 bungalows down below the football field. The football field will be in here. And I guess I can put the football field in there. Okay. And then we have the street running here. Okay, so Ocean is here. And then, right, and then Phelan is here, and then Judson is here. Just so you kind of get the direction. We have the Chancellor's Office bungalow here, and the support staff is there. We have Conlin Hall, and a couple of the Chancellor's Office staff who are in there right now. And we have the bookstore annex, and we have the MUB. So a little bit of background is that in the big picture, big discussions that the college has been having for a number of years, we're talking about moving all of student services into the MUB to make it really a one-stop student services center. Okay. Not here to talk to you about that today. That's not part of this plan. What it is a part of, and it's going to be a big part of, is the work that Phil Newsom is doing for us in the Facilities Master Plan. So over the next 16, 18 months, as people get together, groups talk, we do all the consensus building, that will be a project that will be talked about. if we moved everybody into the MUB, the student services folks, that would really empty Conlin Hall. The idea also, big picture, we're not talking about it today, but in the future to bring Conlin back as the administration building for the college. That we would centralize administration and it would come back to Conlin. Okay, so that's in the background of this. What's really driving the plan today is the state and condition of the Child Development Center. And that's why we asked Kathy to be here in case you have questions about that. But you're all familiar with the Child Development Center on the corner of Judson and Phelan, and the deteriorating condition. And although we're happy to report that the green roof is green now because of the rain, right? So that's a nice thing. But we really need to get out of there, and we do need to get out of there quickly. And so the whole rest of these dominoes that I'm going to explain to you are a result of us needing to move the Child Development Center and create a temporary location. And when I say temporary, and probably in my entire conversation, it's meaning maybe a decade. So temporary is relative, but they're not permanent buildings. They're not part of our capital outlay program that we're talking about. These are relatively minor moves and temporary buildings, but they could be there for 10 years, depending mostly on financing, okay, and bringing in another bond or some source of dollars. So we had the opportunity, again, working with Phil, to look at several locations on the campus for the relocation of the Child Development Center, and it came down to a location here at parking lot C that would incorporate the existing Chancellor's bungalow and some additional bungalows brought in to create the temporary Child Development Center. We do know that it'll take up about half of that parking lot, so there'll be an impact on parking, but we have an interest in preserving the handicap parking that's in that area, as well as parking for parents and drop-off location, and so that will be a little bit of an impact on that location. But it was identified for several reasons as the best place. And it was early in the conversation that the CPPC endorsed and supported that location. Then we kind of got off on a different tangent, and they were talking about putting it sort of down here next to the 600 bungalows, but now we're back here at that location. But as you can see, we have a lot of staff here in the Chancellor's bungalow. So we've got to move those people somewhere. So we've identified that we can move them to the 600 bungalows. Okay, one's a little bit down the ramp from the Chancellor's office in the parking lot area there. Okay, so we can move there, but we've got people in those spaces, and here we have facility planning, and we have a couple of accountants who have offices in that space. So we're working to move these folks, and again, I'm going to say temporary, but I mean temporary now, probably 12 months, over to Goff Street. Okay? And so that allows us space here in the 600 bungalows to move the Chancellor's office. And so that would include legal services. It would include the special trustee. His head came off, but I gave him back together. I thought somebody might like me to leave his head off. But we've got Kristen and her support staff, Judy, and we have the Chancellor, her executive secretary, and the board secretary that would all need to move there. You know, we also have Jeff Hamilton and we have Vicki Bronca that currently are temporarily in Conlin Hall in what eventually will be the president's office or the chancellor's office. Okay, that's also part of the plan. But for that next step, they can stay there. So then, and we're also talking about this move taking place probably in January, because we have a deadline, and maybe Kathy can speak to it, but I can quickly say that for us to operate the Child Development Center for the start of fall semester in 2016, We have to be completely moved and ready to go, playground equipment, cubby's done, everything about 5-6 weeks at least prior to the opening of school. So we're really looking at having to have this whole move and this area developed by the 1st of July at kind of a drop dead. That's the absolute latest. We're on a very tight schedule for that. Those of you who participated in the board meeting this week, we took an emergency resolution to the board, and there were 6 projects here in the district that the board declared emergency situations, and that allows us to, by public contract code, allows us to not have to bid actually at all to get some of the work done and get these relocatables in and all that. We were very clear in the item that we took to the board that although we are excused from all bidding, we're just going to not do the formal bidding process, but we will still be getting competitive bids for all the work that is involved. The Child Development Center was one of those projects. The other projects are a leaking diesel underground tank at Downtown Center. We have the broken pipe in front of Conlin Hall. We have the HVAC system for the Student Health Center. We have the HVAC system for the, not the Creative Arts, not the Arts Extension, but the Creative Arts building. And we have the establishment of the 1170 location on Market Street for our Civic Center. Okay, we ran into some problems with thinking that we were told that the basement was permitted for our use in that building. It is not permitted, and so there's some complications. And again, just to be able to get that work done quickly, we need to declare that emergency situation. So the board declared the board. The superintendent of schools, for whatever reason, for San Francisco, has to approve it also. He has approved it, so it allows us to move forward. So that's what's going to happen first. So we're going to get the Child Development Center going so that it can be here in this location. Okay. Then another project that's been on the charts for I don't know how many years. The chief can speak to it, but how many have been to police services in Cloud Hall? Okay. You know, I'm not going to ask you why you were there. But they have been for over 20 years in their facility. It is amazingly unsuitable for the work that they're doing. And so there's been a plan to the point where we already have the plans drawn about what the new space would look like and all that. And so the idea is to move police services out of Cloud Hall and become the bookstore annex would become the new police. You call it a police station? Yeah. It'd be the new police station. Okay. Because all of these construction and moving projects are so complicated, at some point you have to draw a line and say, okay, you know, we can handle this much. So we're looking at probably the next 12, 14 months, like I said, calendar year 2012. So this doesn't answer all the questions, but it just allows us to get a lot of things done. And why bringing that up is because the space that's been vacated by the police services in Cloud Hall really becomes a space that is to be determined in terms of what we're going to do with that space. So we'll have to do a process about that. Okay? So there's also a desire, as I said earlier, for the chancellor to move back into Conlin Hall. Okay? So, and there's also a desire to not keep these folks in these temporary bungalows, because that's a long distance. If anybody made that hike, all the chancellor's office staff having to go up there. The chancellor has an interest in having her staff relatively close by. So again, working with Phil and helping on some ideas about where could we move the staff and where could we put in some relocatable buildings, for instance. Again, temporary, maybe 10 years, and not ugly. Ones that are really aesthetically pleasing and that have some logic and organization. Okay, so where it's been identified for this is right here next to the MUB. So right up there, there's parking, there's a sidewalk, there's a little bit of land before it goes down to Unity Park. And of course, we're talking about integrating it with the new pedestrian paths that are going to be coming onto our property from the Unity Park. And am I getting that name right? It's Unity Park, I think. Unity Plaza. Unity Plaza, I think it's called. They broke ground this week, if you didn't know. They just broke ground.
You're talking about the Civic Center?
No, just right here.
Unity Plaza.
But the bus station?
Yeah,
Bus
it's right here.
turnaround, that
It's
little
kind of
what
right.
they were using for construction.
Unity Plaza?
Yeah, it was kind of their staging area, and now it's called Unity Plaza.
Guess what? There's a plaza
It'll
there.
be being built. Okay, so
Put a fence around it.
so the idea is that we'll put a relocatable here in this location that would allow us then to move the Chancellor's office staff adjacent to where her office is. And again, somewhere down the road, it may be determined that we turn Conlon Hall into the administration building and all these people would move back in there, but we're not talking about that today. That's way down the road. So what I want to do then is move all these people that are going to go up here into the relocatable. Okay, Judy, Kristen, well actually, Susan comes out of there. Oh man, I got sorry. Get it all together. Jeff Hamilton and his staff would go up into the relocatables with the Chancellor's office support staff, as would Mickey, okay?
Wow.
They'd go there. And then this would free up Conlon Hall for the Chancellor and her immediate staff to occupy those offices, okay?
I'm sorry, I missed the little piece. When does that happen? That the transfer goes back to Conlon Hall?
This is probably going to be late summer, early fall, okay? Because it's going to take us 9-10 months to get this area developed and be able to make those shifts. So that's what we're talking about. Let me do another aside. The Chancellor has a strong interest, as do many of you, that our cadaver lab that's located in the science building is really substandard. There's some major issues that have been in existence. Yes.
He knows personally.
For a long time.
Present.
Should I keep going? And so we want to next year move the cadaver lab temporarily, not for 10 years, just a short period of time, so that we can redo the space or identify a better space for it in a permanent building, and then move that cadaver lab. So I'm also going to do, and here's the cadaver. You didn't see it already. So I'm going to say this is
Tell me if you have it, if you're horizontal.
yeah. So the cadaver lab, it will be part of it, but it'll fall out in the next few months, working with the faculty, working with facility planning about where that might be. So let's just leave it named.
Well, until the HVAC is fixed in student health, it'd be a perfect place. It's cold.
Yeah, because it's cold now, okay?
Sorry about that.
So, you all know that we've signed the exclusive negotiating agreement with the land developers for the land lease at Goff Street. We're now in the process of locating a builder who will come in, a developer that will come in and lease that space for the next 75 or 100 years. They're going to build a building there, probably up housing, and the college will receive that stream of revenue from the rental of those units for a long time. It's a 75-year lease with a 25-year extension. Just to sort of bid on the project and put a proposal in, there's a large upfront fee. I want to say $500,000. I think it's $500,000. As soon as the lease is signed, the district gets a $10 million payment, and then we start our stream of annual payments for the next 75 years on Goff Street. But here's Goff. We got all these people in Goff. We've got to move them somewhere. Again, discussions that have been taking place well before my time are that it would be a good idea to bring the administration of the college together onto the Ocean campus. Okay? So the thought is that while we're developing, and you could call it the village, and people are having fun calling it the village people, but we could put additional relocatables in this area. Again, nice looking, well designed, very adequate, not a lot, plenty of space, not people crammed in, and relocate all of the Goff Street folks over to that area. So, and it's
Mark, this Unity Village Plaza, is this the space that's currently the bus turnaround?
No,
space?
no. There's a small area between the bus turnaround and the apartment building. There's a small strip.
Oh yeah.
There's a small.
Okay.
It's. You'll see. You can.
Oh yeah.
And right there, it's not very large, but they're calling it Unity Plaza, and it's going to have a pathway up to our campus, and it's going to have benches.
Is that our land or?
It's not our land.
So we'd be leasing that?
They're working on it, right?
Yeah, they dedicated it. They did the shovel the groundbreaking. Thank you. Just this week. Okay.
I just want to do a time check. Again, it's been about 20 minutes for this item. I know it's of great interest to all of us. Is it okay if we extend another 5 minutes? Because we do have the budget update as well.
And the budget update's about a minute. So just to relieve you. Okay? So those become there, and what did I do with my, so there's really there's going to be a relocatable for HR, and there'll be a relocatable for physical services. All right? So the other part is we have this abandoned building now on the corner, and some of you are probably familiar with the 200 bungalows. I think there are two vintages of they're the Pizza Hut bungalows, what I've been told they're called, and then some other ones. They have some offices, some storage and things going on there. But to save money, we think that when we demolish this, because we don't want it to stay there longer than it has to. It's probably been there too long already. We want to get that it's ugly. It doesn't represent our campus well. But while we're doing that demolition, it'll be real easy for us to demo these bungalows.
Hey, the classified senate's in 200 bungalows.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to Career Center.
Yeah. Those would all be relocated. Yeah, we don't tear anything down without giving or take care of the
We
cats.
don't tear anything down.
You all know that the city has a feral cat relocation director and program?
I heard that they're being relocated as we speak.
Yeah. I never knew that, but I've been talking to him. So it'll be determined exactly how that happens. We've talked about perhaps putting in another new bungalow there for office space. We're told that where those bungalows are, part of that was a parking lot once upon a time. We may be able to add parking to make up for some of the parking that we're going to lose here and here. Again, that will be developed, and that's way towards the end of this 12, 14 month process as as we see it right now. There is some instructional support folks in the downstairs of Goff Street. And again, I'm going to put them on the TBD list because we know there's space on campus. We just have to spend some time in identifying. It's only a couple of offices and a instructional support materials library that's underneath there. What's it called?
The TRC.
The TRC called the Teachers Resource Center. Okay? So, let me just make sure I got it all. So, fast forward about 12 to 14 months from now, this is what it would look like. The college has been waiting a long time for many of these projects. Again, we're being driven by the needs of the Child Development Center to get out of that building. And we're bringing it to you today for your support and recommendation that we move forward with this plan.
So let's open up with questions. Again, a lot of information has been presented.
Right. Lots to discuss here, so I'm going to distill it down to three main points. Three main points that I want you to hear, and I want Phil to hear, right? Yeah. One, I compliment you organizationally. Getting people from Goff Street to the main campus is more than just a physical move, it's an organization move that would make us more efficient. Many of our issues, as we've known for years, come from having us separated. I think everyone who's down at Goff Street could recognize that. So from an organizational perspective, that's a priority. If we can make that happen, it will start making us be better functional the sooner it happens to get people recognizing we're one college in one place. As a side note, as Phil already knows, the cadaver issues are when you just move the cadavers into space. The cadaver issues you may want to take and put somewhere else. I mean, the pressure to move the cadavers is a pressure that is not coming from, it's coming from when Susan came in and we asked for an environmental measurement. We haven't gotten any of that. In the meantime, the science building needs to have its elevator access redone. That's going to take time. So in 12 months, I can't see the cadavers moving anywhere. You might want to just take these other things as a priority unless there's something I don't know about rebuilding an elevator, getting it to the third floor, redoing the science building, and that's going to have more disruptions than we'll have to talk about.
And I think it'll be a real success if at the end of the 12 months, we know
We have a
what
plan.
we're going to do to the cadaver lab. And we'll be back in front of you a year from now saying,
the sensitivity is don't disrupt the big money maker for the college. Our anatomy classes all now have full wait lists. As of today, there's no space in there. No, we don't. We'll talk. But emphatically, and I'm trying to be concise here for our time. Emphatically, and this is what I want Phil to hear. We're playing a game of Sudoku here with limited spaces. And as we move on to parking, what we started this meeting from becomes so much more important. This issue of the reservoir, the parking, we're moving all of these people onto temporary things that we're moving into parking spaces. We're not, in the next development, going to be able to play this game for much longer. If the college comes back to where it is, it had growing room that it now isn't going to have. So it's going to
if we lose Balboa Reservoir.
Yeah. So underscoring all of this has to be a focused effort to make sure we actually put ourselves, by using this in our facilities plan, which they talked a lot about at last week's meeting. Hey, we don't have a facilities plan, then how can we interface with them? So as we develop a facilities plan, that parking lot has to be essential into it, not moving around it, which will leave us with less space to move.
I want to acknowledge Em and Joe.
First, I was hoping this project would be available online at some point. No.
Oh, that would be interesting. Time-lapse photography or something. But
No worries. I'm concerned about the impact on students during this whole thing because there's going to be a shifting timeline, and I don't know. I mean, I know we don't know exactly when things will happen. If they'll happen in the middle of the semester, if classrooms are being shifted around, how those notifications will go out.
no I want to say no classroom impact except for the classroom in the Child Development Center.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And we're very conscious of summer of 16 and the time that we have available there, spring break of 16, the winter break of 16, and those kinds of pressures that we have. So, yeah.
I just had a quick comment that I would like to direct to the faculty constituent group. It has come to my attention at this meeting that my office, I'm the classified Senate president, is to be determined to be demolished. And if Lillian or Karen was here, and I'm just respectfully commenting to my wonderful constituents across the table of if it was announced at this meeting that your academic senate office was on the TBD to be demolished, and this was the first time we were hearing it, maybe what your visceral reaction would be as a constituent leadership or your constituent group. So that's just a comment I would like to make to my friendly colleagues over there.
Well, I mean, I think I'd like to hear yours. It's your opinion. I didn't know this was the first time. This is the first time I'm hearing it too. So, I mean, you have a reaction.
Well, it's just interesting that I just heard my office is to be determined to be demolished. So,
So let me just jump in. It's my understanding that the conversation about demolishing the relocatables and the 200 series bungalows has been going on for a long time. That everybody agrees that they're substandard and they need to move. I can assure you that where you will move to will be a choice that you will be involved with making, and it'll be very much nicer than what you have right now.
well, very much nicer than what I have now is a low bar. So I'm confident in that. I just worry about the timeline, and like I said, it's just a little shocking to be told.
But like we just talked about the cadaver lab, and it's going to allow us time to plan about what exactly that will look like. I think you would put the 200 bungalow
I'm just so complimented to be compared to the cadaver lab.
Now, Jill, I didn't say that. But that 200 bungalow situation, again, it's going to allow us time as we move into the 2016 to really develop a plan and get everybody's consensus on that.
Right. I want to acknowledge Michael first and then James.
I thought there were classrooms at 600. I thought there was some classrooms in those bungalows. Because I actually did surveys, and I was actually in those bungalows, and there were classrooms.
Oh yeah, there are tons of, it's only the facilities planning office that will be, we're moving facilities planning to Goff. That space opens up with the chancellors. Yeah, the classrooms are all the same, and then there's another accounting office in the 600 bungalows. Again, we're moving them to Goff, and using that space, so it's not impacting any classroom space in the 600s. And I probably should put and actually that's why I threw this down, sort of that down. This is another part of the TBD about once we free up the existing facilities office and that accounting office, we've used it for swing space for Chancellor's office, but once we get them there, it'll be decided what we should use those spaces for. Again, part of the future conversation.
James and Sarah.
So, just reflecting on all of this, I mean, we have been talking about moving things, closing off for years and years and years. And I'm glad we actually have somebody who's going to be helping to coordinate an overall plan. I think it's refreshing. I'm not sure how much I like all the stick figures and this and that, but it kind of puts it up there.
Come on, I went online to figure out how to cut those paper dolls.
Well, I did like the blockheads and the pointy heads, I'll give you that. That's, I think it's great that we're moving towards this. I do think that going to what Simon said about parking, You know, if the mayor's office really wants to put this kind of density in housing, this city should be able to afford to put in a parking structure for us. And I know we all talk about, oh, well, maybe we should put in shuttles or anything else. But I don't see any reason why we shouldn't reach for the sky first and put that to them.
With this plan that shows that we're taking up our existing parking, so we have to have compensation for that.
Yes.
Oh, I'm glad you said that, because I think in the short term, in the next 6 months, 12 months, while that Balboa conversation is it's going to heat up a lot. Having this plan to take up more of our parking kind of, I think, helps us in the argument. It's not just Balboa that we're worried about. We have to replace that parking. We have to replace that parking, and they're just exacerbating the problem in the short term.
So, I'm glad to see that we're actually considering things as a total college as opposed to the silos that we've had.
Attila and Rosario, then I do want to
So some of it was answered, but I had some concern what Mike brought up. There are some, like the college workers in the summer program. So you answered that, so that is definitely answered. And I also wanted to bring up the same issue basically with James, that parking lot. I remember back in the 80s when I was a student here, we were already talking about that in 82, 83. So definitely much more needed now. But I also do want to go back a little bit what Jill said. I think it would have been just nice. We had our college, the Senate meeting yesterday. If someone would have informed our president, who is actually the, if you really think about it, the highest elected classified person on the campus, and no one bothered to just give a phone call. The move is not the problem. It's just, hey, they're going to move the chancellor. I'm sure someone going to tell her, and just finds out at the board meeting. So the same, just whoever was involved, it had been nice, and then she could have gone yesterday to the meeting and says, guys, guess what? We're getting a cooler, nicer place, and would have been a much more positive spin.
So I'll take the responsibility for that, and I apologize for that happening. I think because it is a complicated plan. We've taken a lot of time. We've talked to a lot of people about it. Unfortunately, we left you off. But the TBD, it has not been decided about that. So that's, in my mind, my excuse for not having been more conscious of that. There are other offices there too. SEIU has offices there, theater arts stores things there, all that. We need to find out from them, again, and program it, where can we move those spaces. But if anybody's to be blamed for the lack of communication with you, it's me, and I'm sorry.
Well, actually, I would like to correct that image a little bit, because I wanted to sympathize with you also, because we found out in Academic Senate last year that a wall was going to be constructed where there hadn't been one, making our space much more reduced and making all the officers have to pack quickly. So this kind of communication is systemic and it's endemic. It's not you because you're so wonderful. And I'm sorry you're out of luck, because I think of the four of us who are replacing our permanent colleagues who are away in Washington D.C. right now, we can't answer whether they even knew yesterday. I tend to doubt it. But I sympathize with you, because it's quite shocking to have these things just sprung on you, and I think is something to take note of is how process happens. Notice is wonderful, and actually being part of the planning is even more proactive, I think.
Again, I'm always aware of the time, and thank you for again, Mark, for leading this conversation and sharing the information, and Kathy and Phil for being part of this conversation as well. It is 5:44. If it's okay with the council.
I have a question about so this was being brought here as a proposal. Is there any action required by our committee, our council, to approve the plan? Because it seems like we're reticent to approve a plan we're hearing about for the first time.
So the PGC doesn't approve plans. It recommends and makes recommendations to the chancellor, and the chancellor is looking for the PGC's support and recommendation to move forward with this plan.
I think there's some reticence around that for many reasons, and
I'll
leave it to my colleagues over there to make that motion, but I don't see it coming from our side.
I know that there are a lot of pieces to this huge project, and certainly it's complicated and it's very time consuming. The urgency, as noted, is the CDC,
So
and that's why.
So let me just elaborate on that. Excuse me for interrupting, Jesse. If the PGC, the chancellor is not going to move forward without the recommendation and support of the PGC. Okay. If this plan delays even a week, even 1 week, the Child Development Center will have to stay in the existing location, and probably we will not be able to move it until summer of 2017.
Can we hear from Kathy about
Sure, sure. I've been a part of the timeline. As many of you know, I hope you know that the Child Development Center, the building is in litigation. We entered litigation due to building failure, and if anyone wants to take a walk and look at the ongoing failure, feel free. It's failing rapidly. I'm concerned. We've had structural engineers out there every 3 months to ensure that structurally it's safe to keep operating in, but I am concerned that the exterior walls are now falling away, exposing pieces of machinery like the air conditioning and heating units, HVAC units, actually exposed to the elements. I don't think that building has another year in it. The interior may last, but the whole all the west-facing walls are falling off the building. So the reason why we need such a long timeline has to do with licensing, and we have 5 external agencies that have to approve operations when you're serving young children, and they all take, you'd be lucky to get anything done within 45 to 60 days. They're community care licensing, part of social services, the health department has to look at your kitchen, fire marshal has to look at your evacuation, State Department of Ed has to approve your contract. So it's one of the more complicated things to move. Whether you move it 1 foot or across the state, it's the same process. You have to do everything over again. It's a whole new facility. So I said yesterday at the facilities meeting, I wish we would have moved 2 years ago, but we were not in a position to focus 2 years ago on something like this. But I do think this is the year we have to move. So I hope that we're kind of causing this, but we didn't cause it. We didn't bring that building, and we're most certainly not causing the rust failure. So I hope that you see that it's a crisis. It's the worst building in the college, and that's why the timeline's so short. Thanks.
So, just to move this forward, the thing that I'm hearing, and I want to make sure we can move forward, you gave us a plan that has a lot of elements and a lot of to be determineds in it. And now you're asking us to say, approve this plan. And that is a crisis. If there was something you were coming back to PGC saying, here are the elements that have to take place in the next 6 months, we could look at it, we could agree upon it because of the crisis situation. But to ask us to determine what's going to happen
To be determined means it hasn't been determined.
Right.
And so that's the cadaver lab, that's at the end of the road what we're going to do with the 600 space, it's what we're going to do with the bungalows.
So
those are
the
all
approval process
to
of
be
what
determined.
the chancellor needs as far as a recommendation from us should be something a little bit more formal, maybe even written, just so that we can say, yes, we see this element, we're okay with these elements. It's going to make it easier to get something that we can agree upon, right? That's
I would definitely like to urge this council to make that a top priority. The Child Development Center is essential for many of our students to be able to take classes. The timing, as Kathy really gave you lots of just the details of what the licensing and the requirements are really time sensitive, but also the children. you know, there's a certain time frame of a school year that they really need to adhere to, and the move for the faculty, for the teachers is quite sensitive and labor intensive too. So the faster we can move it forward, the less disruption to the students and to their children. And it is an essential aspect for them to be able to do their education. I think that what's been presented too also is a heads up to everybody. I think our academic senate will take into account what happened to you, because if the idea is to make Conlon Hall an administrative building, our academic senate is there too, so we'll rely on it.
And we're encouraging everybody to become very active in the process of the development of the facilities master plan and over the next 14, 16 months. And if the opportunity presents itself for you to come to the forums, meet with folks, please do, because it is an absolutely participative process.
I think I saw Jill's hand earlier. Would you like to?
I'm extremely uncomfortable with being told the chancellor is not going to move forward with this without a recommendation from the PGC, and the chancellor isn't here. The chancellor has the authority to move forward with this without a recommendation from the PGC. So I am not comfortable with being told that.
Well, as her agent, I'm going to tell you, she will not move forward with it without the endorsement of the PGC.
So we're being told that, and then we're being told if we don't recommend it, then it's not going to move forward, and you're not going to get to move out. So that is, what's that?
Again, I want to make sure that we get enough time to really have a thoughtful conversation, and I know that we're running short. So let me go to Alan and Kathy and Chief, and then we need to make a decision.
I mean, I'm not the planner, so I don't want to propose alternatives, but I'm wondering if the real urgency is around the CDC moving, and there's a possibility of adding units into the parking lot C and doing a little bit of shuffling instead of, yes, I would love to see Goff Street move over here. Yes, I'd like to see a lot of the things you propose over here. But if they are not of prime urgency, and the CDC is there an alternative plan that will allow for that to happen, ASAP, without necessarily getting all these other TBD things that we aren't comfortable approving or recommending today?
So let me just give you a couple more information. In terms of Goff Street, so I said that we've signed the exclusive bargaining agreement with not the developer, but the community developer, right? And they're going to find the developer. So, and that's all rolling, and we anticipate by summer, end of summer, that we'll have a developer and there'll be an agreement signed. And what that then gives us is we'll have to start paying rent on the Goff Street facility, about $35,000, $40,000 a month, to be able to stay in that space. So it is pressing within the next 12 months that the Goff Street situation be dealt with.
Kathy, and then we'll go to Chief and
I'm just, as a former member of the PGC, all coming back to me now. Would it make sense to divide this proposal in half? There's another PGC meeting coming up. Authorize the CDC moving to Bungalow 213, and the Chancellor, who is actually the most inconvenienced in all this, and her staff making their move, which would allow kind of the time-sensitive piece to happen, and then the domino effect, part 2 of the moving plan be discussed at the next PGC meeting, so that we don't have this, we've got to get plans to do this week, so we're not held up. So you cut it from the CDC to the Chancellor moving, that's part one, phase one, and then phase two has a richer discussion.
So,
Does that make sense?
Yes.
For January?
And again, I
Well,
want to be sensitive before we lose more members.
I'm just worried it's,
Thank you, Kathy, for that suggestion. I do want to come back to it. Chief, do you have a comment?
Certainly I would, and I apologize and not apologize for my bias in needing to get out of the deplorable position and place where I am. So and as discussion at the CPAC the other day, I look at this as this benefits more people, and certainly there's issues that need to be resolved in this, but I think we can resolve those and maybe looking at what Kathy just devised, at least have some movement. Because I would hate to see us continue in that building and Jill's gone, and I'll share with her in terms of perspective. If you told me you were burning my building down in 5 minutes, you couldn't stop me from dancing in the street here. So I welcome you to get me out of that place. No, this is necessary. And again, that's not to belittle the shock that my colleague took.
Yeah.
So, those to be determined things, I think we realized, and the group yesterday realized, there's some challenges and there's some things that are backs against the wall, but I think we're benefiting more people than not by moving this forward. And there's still enough time to address some of the issues that I think we need to do around processes, like telling people, hey, by the way, we're going to move you out. And I think it just, these moves just benefit more and more. And like Simon mentioned, getting people across the street. I hate going down there. I'm an ineffective manager the way that place works. It makes me ineffective doing that. So I would like to see us not hold that up. But if we have to, a friendly amendment would be, let's look at some of the pieces that maybe we should hold off on and have more discussion. But most of this, I don't think affects us, at least a number of these moves, I think far benefits.
I will make an executive decision. We're going to take one more comment from James, and then we need to make a decision. So I acknowledge that.
I will not vote if I cannot speak.
Okay, well, we'll take two last comments. James?
So I would just say, I object like that this is shut down our throats. That said, we've known about this for 2 or 3 years, the Child Development Center. I have watched the panels melt and fall off. And it is, in this last year, it's gotten really bad. And with the rains coming, I can only imagine what it's going to be like. I think that for the kids, we need to at least get this portion of it moving and the chancellor's portion of it moving. We do need to bring this back for discussion. The other parts, January 23rd, we've got a different thing for PGC. So it might not be till February, but certainly the child development bungalow and such, as much as I dislike the way this has been put at the last minute, I think it's the right thing to do.
And one last comment, and we need to decide.
I agree with both of you. This is something that Don tried to do the very first year in 2007, move Gulf Street over, make that an initiative. So most of it is something that we all knew about. My issue is a little bit also that, and I definitely don't, that's why we all turn to Catherine. We know that if she says that has to happen, we all know her, we know it has to happen. There's no question about that. But there are some of these details, and it's not, that I don't know anything about dead bodies, don't want to know anything about them. So that's the uncomfortable part comes, that I feel like I do want that to happen, we want most of it to happen, but there are all these details, and I understand they interlink, I understand. So can we, there's the question, can we vote part of it that we all agree, and those other part can be?
Please allow me as chair to answer the
Please,
following.
please.
So again, I don't want to cut short any of the conversation. So what I'd like to propose, if it's okay with you all, hear your comments. Part one, we want to allow the CDC to relocate. They have a strict timeline, and we must at least recommend to the chancellor that the CDC needs to be relocated to the chancellor's bungalow area. So that's at least part one, so that we can at least start the domino effect. So can we at least have agreement with that?
Yes.
Council, is that okay?
Yes.
All right. So now looking ahead, okay, we do need to have more discussions about the other interconnected projects and TBD items. We know that on January 21st, we will have a focus session on accreditation self-study. Would it be okay with the council on February 4th to have this topic be brought back? And at that point in time, it will be with our other Vice Chancellor, well, Ron Gearhart's coming back. So we would invite Ron to at least have more of a conversation about the other TB items. Is that okay?
Why can't we do the chief's area too, because it lives in that?
Well, at this point, I mean, I hear several pieces, and we just need to, we need to tease out a few things, because I don't want to leave this room feeling like we can't come to some consensus.
Right.
So there's 10 of us now, there's 9 members voting.
Procedural issue here. This is a report and an update. There is no record of what we are voting on. We have listened to a presentation. If there was something that you needed our approval on, and you just say, because you gave us this presentation, this is the plan, or a bullet point of plans that has the recommendation of the PGC, we could vote on it. But if we all raise our hands right now and vote and say we approve it, there's no record of what you've done.
So you're not approving anything, you're just recommending that the plan move forward. I just want to say, to be determined. That means it is to be determined. It has not been determined, but there are tendrils and odds and ends left after we do the major domino movement. This was presented to the Chancellor's Cabinet in the whole. As I said, unanimous support. The CPPC, which is eventually going to be your subcommittee, recommended it with a single negative vote. Kathy, I cannot assure you if it gets carved up that it'll be, and I'll tell you, I cannot assure you, the Chancellor isn't here, and we are that close on the timeline to be able to get her moved. So
what do you need from us? Because I don't know what you're asking for from this body.
endorsement and recommendation to move forward.
Endorsement of what?
The plan.
I have the plan is a board.
Simon, I can easily write up exactly what I said.
Yeah. And that would be
But we
something.
can't, but I can't write it up
In time.
in
Right.
time.
I understand.
And again, our PGC, we do not meet again until January 21st, February 4th. So I, you know, at the end of the day, we need to look at the big picture, and I apologize as well that we are where we are because we're faced with a decision that we need to make as a council in terms of what's in the best interest of the district, of the college moving forward, knowing how much it impacts CDC, knowing how much it impacts our students, knowing how much it really disrupts things. A good thing is we will have more time for conversations about the TBD items. The good thing is we will have conversations because now that this has been brought to our attention, we will have conversations and specific input and feedback. And because the facilities master plan process will commence next semester, there will be a lot more conversations that you will have to be at the table. And I certainly want to just ask the council to at least move forward to some degree so that we don't hold up the initial part of this domino effect.
So these meetings aren't recorded anymore, right? Are they recorded?
No, it's,
Oh, so we do have some record of what was said.
yeah, there is an audio recording right there.
It feels, I agree with our colleagues, that it just feels like we're asking to sign a blank check, you know, with so many things up in the air and unclear and to be determined, and I guess I would have expected something a little bit more solid, but I feel like I don't want to hold things up, and that in general, that it looks like things have been accounted for, even if the process and respect for people's space and what have you hasn't been honored so well. But I would like to see it move forward with the proviso, I guess, that we get a detailed plan that covers exactly what was covered today, and that also has our concerns and comments noted on it.
And I want to commit to you as chair. I want to make sure that the minutes do address your concerns, so that it does reflect what we what we just talked about, because this is an important project for all of us to be a part of, and it needs to capture the concerns being noted. Again, I don't want to rush, and I certainly want to respect the fact that this is a very difficult conversation to have, but we do need to, at least as a council, make some kind of recommendation in order for us to move forward, so that our chancellor would be able to say, yes, we are aware of the general plan, and we are comfortable with the initial first part of the plan involving the CDC and the chancellor's bungalow, and that we will have more conversations.
Okay, I'm just going to tell you, if you draw the line at the chancellor going to the temporary location in the 600 series, it won't go forward. Because that is not the
That's
permanent.
not what we said.
Well, that is what he just said.
That's not what we said.
That's what he just said. But
I thought Rosario
Well, what
was
we
more
said
all
was that we
encompassing.
would, what I think we said is that we would recommend that it go forward, given that we have a record of what was said, and that we will have a formal plan, and that our concerns will be
communicated.
noted, and that some action will be taken to correct those concerns.
And next meeting, we're going to have something
Exactly.
written, so
Exactly.
we can.
Exactly.
So again, we are aware of the plan. We want to recommend
Right.
the plan, but specifically, we're going to make sure that the concerns are being noted
Right.
and share with the chancellor
Right.
about process. And there are a lot of TBD things, and we're going to have conversations. So we're not going to try to piece it and parse it out necessarily, but we have to have more conversations. But we are, as a council now, are comfortable with this plan. So that's a summary. I'm not trying to.
And I think that's kind of your motion. So
Right,
I would
right.
second that.
Right. And I'll take a picture of his little doodads.
I think we all did. But
Oh, we all took pictures, okay.
So again, I want to respect your time, and I want to respect the fact that we have a process that we need to work on. At the same time, the dominoes that needs to begin. So if Rosario, you're okay, we have it recorded. We're going to. That's the motion.
That'll be the motion.
And again, I want to respect the conversation, seconded by James. We are recommending the plan. Okay? And we will have more discussion. Okay? And if it's okay to be specific, we can have those conversations at the February 4th meeting. That'll be the soonest that we can have that conversation, because again of the January 21st date being that creation sub-study. Is that okay with the council?
So you got to call for the vote.
I just have one clarification on that. So we're talking about 2 months from now or so to have more discussion about it. Decisions are going to be made in the next 2 months to implement this plan. We're going to be ordering relocatables, we're going to be ordering furniture, we're going to be having site work done, we're going to do the things that I told you about.
Right. We understand.
Everything that's TBD is TBD, and maybe those are the ones you're talking about that you want to have further discussion, because it'll be fateful if we come back in February and some part of this gets carved out and said, no, we don't agree to that now.
So part of what you were, I guess, asking to come back in February is a report that says, to date, this is where we are. This is what we've done. This is what we're moving forward on. These are the items that are TBD in a more codified way. So that we can say, at that point, we can say, yeah, we're not going to ask you to go back and redo something you haven't, undo work you've already done.
No, great.
We want to get on the same page.
Great.
And then have input moving forward. Just
And I think that, could I just add that I think that now that people have seen the plan, that we should be emailing and putting our things in writing to people who are organizing it.
So thank you. I hope we are in some consensus to make sure that we move forward. So so motion by Rosario, seconded by James. Any other discussion? So of the 9 remaining members, if you're in agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. I know this is a difficult conversation, but I think it's important we will be doing it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're not going to do the budget presentation because of time, but if you want to see what we're going to present, it's attached to the Board of Trustees agenda from this last week. It's the same presentation that we gave to them. And we're in good shape. As of December 1st, 2015.
I want to thank the PGC for doing the budget.
Thank you.
Presenting.